In 2018, the United States entered a new economic experiment. Then President Donald Trump imposed sweeping tariffs taxes on imported goods with one goal: to bring manufacturing back to America and protect U.S. jobs. 6 years later, those tariffs are still reshaping the economy, but not in the way many expected. While large retailers and corporations have found ways to profit, thousands of small businesses across America are quietly being crushed under the weight of those same tariffs. This is the untold story of how an economic weapon meant to protect American business has, in many ways, ended up hurting the smallest players the most. Tariffs sound simple: make imported goods more expensive so American companies can compete. But in a globalized economy, nothing is that straightforward, because nearly every American business, big or small, depends on global supply chains. That includes everything from the steel used in construction to the electronics that fill store shelves. When tariffs hit, they don't just target foreign manufacturers. They raise costs for anyone who buys those goods, including U.S. companies themselves. And that's where the trouble begins. For large corporations like Walmart, Amazon, and Home Depot, tariffs were just another cost of doing business. They have entire teams dedicated to navigating international trade, renegotiating supplier contracts, and shifting production across borders. They can buy in bulk, hedge their costs, and even pass small price increases directly to consumers without losing much business. But for small businesses, the independent retailers, family-owned factories, and local importers, it's a completely different story. They don't have the leverage to pressure suppliers or the resources to relocate production. When tariffs raise their costs by 10%, 20%, or even 30%, there's nowhere to hide. Margins collapse. A small furniture maker in Ohio, once importing wood panels from China, now pays 25% more for the same materials. A boutique electronics shop in Florida that relied on components from Asia is forced to raise prices and loses customers to Amazon. For these businesses, the tariffs aren't protection, they're punishment. Economists call this phenomenon asymmetric impact. It means a single policy benefits one side while crushing the other. Large corporations often have financial buffers, global networks, and supply chain flexibility. Small businesses don't. In fact, data from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce shows that nearly 63% of small businesses that import goods reported significant financial strain since tariffs began. Many have reduced staff, delayed expansions, or shut down entirely, and yet the big players are doing just fine. Walmart's profit margins have expanded, Amazon continues to dominate e-commerce, and major manufacturers like Caterpillar and General Electric have adjusted by shifting operations abroad, bypassing tariffs altogether. In other words, the giants adapted, the small players paid the price. Supporters of the tariffs argue that they were never meant to target small businesses, that the long-term goal is to rebuild domestic industry and reduce dependence on China. But rebuilding takes time, and in that time, many smaller American businesses are being squeezed out of existence. Even manufacturers who want to source domestically find it nearly impossible. Because after decades of globalization, the United States no longer has the same local supply base it once did. Factories have closed, workers have retired, skills have shifted overseas. So when small business owners try to buy American, they discover there are simply no affordable options left. The result: they're forced to import anyway and pay the tariffs that come with it. But the irony goes deeper. Many of the largest corporations that supported tariffs publicly have actually benefited from them in unexpected ways. When tariffs hit, small competitors raised prices or closed. That left more market share for big box retailers. And since large firms can negotiate exclusive supplier deals and absorb costs, they often end up stronger than before. It's a pattern repeated across industries. In manufacturing, small importers close, leaving production dominated by giants. In retail, independent stores struggle to keep prices low, while chain stores expand. In agriculture, small farms face higher equipment and fertilizer costs, while large agribusinesses access global financing to stay afloat. The policy meant to level the playing field may have tilted it further. Even economists who once supported selective tariffs are now warning about their unintended consequences, according to the Peterson Institute for International Economics, the U.S. consumer paid over $1,300 more per household annually because of tariff-related cost increases. And while inflation hit everyone, small businesses were among the hardest hit and able to absorb or offset rising input costs. In short, tariffs became a hidden tax not on China, but on American consumers and small companies. Yet politically, the message still resonates. For many voters, tariffs represent something emotional, a symbol of self-reliance, economic nationalism, and control. They appeal to the idea that America should make its own goods again, that jobs shouldn't depend on cheap imports. And there's truth in that sentiment. Globalization has hollowed out many American towns. Entire industries were lost. But economists argue that tariffs alone can't reverse decades of structural change. Without investment in workforce training, automation, and infrastructure, raising import costs only punishes downstream businesses, the very ones needed to rebuild local economies. The Biden administration has kept many of Trump's tariffs in place, a sign that even political opponents see strategic value in certain areas, especially technology and national security. But the trade war that began with promises of a manufacturing revival is now part of a much larger economic chess game, one that small businesses never signed up to play. Behind every policy announcement are thousands of quiet stories. A small apparel company forced to close after shipping costs doubled. A construction contractor unable to compete because steel prices surged. A local electronics distributor watching as big corporations take over their customer base. Each of these stories adds up to an uncomfortable truth. In the global economy, protectionism doesn't always protect, it often consolidates. So what happens next? Many analysts believe tariffs are here to stay, not just as a political tool, but as a strategic one. In an age where global trade is tied to national security, supply chain resilience matters as much as price. That means businesses will need to adapt, not by waiting for tariffs to disappear, but by rethinking their models entirely. Some are turning to nearshoring, sourcing goods from Mexico or Canada instead of China. Others are investing in automation to offset rising material costs, and a growing number are banding together, forming cooperative buying groups to negotiate better import prices collectively. But even these strategies require capital, coordination, and time, things large corporations have in abundance and small firms often lack. The story of Trump's tariffs isn't just about politics. It's about power, who has it, who loses it, and how money moves in between. It's about how policies designed to protect domestic business can end up strengthening monopolies, widening inequality, and deepening the challenges of globalization. And it's a reminder that in today's interconnected economy, there are no isolated decisions. Every tax, every tariff, every trade war ripples through millions of lives and livelihoods. In the end, tariffs didn't just reshape global trade, they revealed something deeper about the American economy itself, that in the battle between Wall Street and Main Street, between global giants and local dreamers, the rules of the game are far from fair. And unless something changes, those rules will keep rewarding the few while crushing the many.